If I was starting to just teach yoga again, how would I do things differently? Sorry for that lovely background noise. I mean, music. So if I was starting all over again, and I knew what I knew now, I'm not so sure I would take the exact same path. Because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what yoga even is. And because during my teacher training, the teacher, there's the train. This is very reflective of my life right now. My son is sick. My wife's just coming home from the hospital. I just got back from the hospital a few weeks ago. We're trying to move right now. We're debating on buying some flights, and everything is really annoying. But we're keeping it raw. I'm trying my best. I'm not gonna edit this out just to make a video look perfect. Sometimes you get surprised, like when the train is only 3 cars long. I could go for a few more of those surprises right now. So when I started out, during my teacher training, the teacher who was leading the group that I regularly practiced in, she left, and they were looking for a new teacher, and the only one they knew of was me. So immediately after teacher training, I started teaching this small group of expats. And I'd say that was helpful, but it also pushed me into an environment of just teaching asana and kind of reinforcing the mindset that this is the way of the yoga teacher, teaching group classes, right? And that to level up would mean privates, because privates you could charge more, and that there's a preset path, there's these this is just some little community group at this space that we had, and then next thing was park yoga, and I do park yoga with the local Chinese people, even though they didn't speak English. They just kind of follow what I was doing. And then I eventually got up to working at a studio in a couple different places. And then I started getting into doing admin of a studio. So managing the students, selling memberships, stuff like that. And that was cool. It kind of fit my business background. And that was a huge switch for me to start getting into the business of yoga and seeing how studios work and what their financing is like, and realizing that it wasn't good, and that I didn't want to be in that space. And if I was going to do it all over again, I'd say I wish my teacher training taught me the importance of focusing on a specific group of people. There's this idea in the yoga community that yoga's for everybody, and as a result of that, as a teacher, you should be teaching everybody. And I think that's a huge mistake, because what this does is it conflates the teacher with yoga. Let me tell you, the teacher is not yoga. You are not the personification and manifestation of all things yoga. And since no teacher is that, that means we are not bound by teaching everybody, okay? Yoga in and of itself is for every body type, but not every type of yoga is for everybody. I don't give my grandma Ashtanga, right? So just like how you don't use every type of yoga for everybody, you don't be a teacher for everybody. And my teacher training and the ones that I've taught in never cover this stuff. I've covered it a little bit because I brought in content on the business of yoga, but it's not really emphasized or driven to those students. And And I think that would be the biggest thing, would be like training and support on identifying my niche first, because that really, like, when you're a teacher with a niche on who you focus on helping, it really expedites your learning process. It really channels all your efforts, and it really helps you to learn the specifics that those students need, what they need help with, what they're going to be doing, where you're going to take them from and to. And that is a huge difference, because yoga teachers just kind of repeat benefits of yoga generically to anyone who will listen. And then wonder how they can make more than $10 to $20 a class. So it's a huge transition, but I'd say if I was gonna do everything again, I'd probably say, like, have my teacher training focusing on a niche. And the second thing, my focus is so bad here. And the second thing is, I wish that there was a little bit more training on like how to set yourself up and get started as a teacher and like move along. You know, maybe it's for a 300 hour, but I think more yoga schools need a little bit more of the business element of yoga, because the fact is, when a teacher is more economically successful, they tend to help more people. I mean, just think about it, right? If there's 2 yoga teachers, one is just offering free classes, which does not attract boatloads of students like people think, right? There's a million free yoga classes, you know. That doesn't attract people. They don't care that it's free. And the teacher, if there's another teacher who's well funded, they can offer something specific. They can deliver more value. They can create a better experience. They can reach and attract more students. And so it just goes around and around and around, and it gets better and better. And the teacher who's got more funding is able to help more people. And coincidentally, those people, especially those who pay, tend to get more results because they've invested in the process, right? So think about this. Here's an easy comparison. If you take 2 yoga practitioners, they both want to go deeper into their practice. One just takes, self-study online, and the other invests in an intensive teacher training. Now, the one who goes online and experiments around, over time, they may learn an equivalent amount. They may do it quite quickly as well. It's very possible that they learn all the essentials for free. It's just very unlikely, because they're not sure what they're looking for. They don't have a support system, and they're not following a structure of any one program or direction, or possibly even school of yoga. So with that in mind, the person who invests in the TTC or YTT is going to get that return. And that return is the experience, the increased knowledge, the condensed information in one intense period. That is generally going to yield more results faster. And the same applies for students. When they get the content in a package, usually their investment encourages them to dive deeper into the material. So I think that would be a huge shift. And instead of going through all the different stages of like free yoga and park yoga and studio yoga, and then focusing on privates and just kind of like moving through that ladder. I mean, I'm glad I did, but at the same time, I think my journey would have been faster, and I probably could have been further ahead by now if someone was there earlier on in my journey to help me and to show me the fact, like, how to narrow these things down, how to build online systems, how to have a guy on your roof. that's just part of it. So I'd say those two things, not having to go through like that entire step. If somebody, because I thought that like studios were the pinnacle. I thought that was like, oh, once you get to the studio, like you're gold. I thought people actually made like $40 to $50 a class, and I'm sure some do, but I never knew that you might only get a handful of classes a week. And I never even thought that I would get exhausted. I'd be like, oh man, I'd love to teach 12 to 20 classes per week because I'm just so passionate about yoga and it's my life and I want to do it forever. And yeah, trust me, that doesn't last when you actually do 12 to 20 classes per week. At the beginning, you get really fit and really strong and really flexible really fast. And then you get exhausted for a really long time. So yeah, I'd say those two things would be pretty solid to have that guidance in my teacher training of like what to do in my niche, and also a little bit of business training about how to price things for myself, how to set up systems online, how to deliver value to students with yoga and do that within my niche. I think I could have taken off a lot of time in my journey to get to where I am now, and I probably could be a lot further along now than where I am. I mean, I'm doing great, but I could still be further along. And you know, I'm glad I went through the journey that I did. I had to learn a lot of lessons, and those lessons enabled me to have the success that I have now. But you know, the idea of this video is to look in hindsight, and if I could go back and do things over again, knowing what I know now, I would do things a little bit differently. I don't regret the path I've taken or the time it's taken. I just think now that I know this information and I've got the experience of doing yoga and my business background and my business running now, I can't say that I can honestly recommend the exact same path of going like free yoga, then like super low paid yoga, then like inching your way higher and higher. It's a process you got to go through, but I can't say I'd recommend it for people intentionally going down that route. So if you'd like to learn how you can expedite this process and not make the same steps and some of the same mistakes that I made, I've got a link down below. It'll take you to a workshop you can register for. And inside, I'll show you how to transition from $10 to $20 group classes or privates and move into a space where you're charging $500 to $1,000 for a value offer that students actually want, right? They got the money. One poll says that the average yoga student spends $62,000 over their lifetime on yoga and related experiences. So students got the money. It's not about the money. It's about them not having a good enough offer worth investing in. That's why most people take teacher trainings, because there's no other alternative. Once you get to the studio and you're like, hey, yoga is more than asana, I want a more spiritual journey, I want to learn something specific, there's no other option for people, so they just go take a teacher training. So if you're a teacher and you'd like to learn how to create something that fills in that gap between studio classes and teacher trainings, this workshop is going to be perfect for you. I'll show you everything you need to know to make that transition. Link is in the description. I'll see you there.